Welcome to the vibrant lands of Thavnair. In the Bounty Sea's southeastern waters lies the Isle of Thavnair, where tropical coastline soon gives way to dense rainforest. Though the intense heat and sweltering humidity remain much the same. The region is known as a rich source of the magically infused stone Giantsgall, and the distinctive violet glow from its rocky outcrops lingers in the memories of visitors long after they depart its shores. Official description: Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. To the south of Ilsabard lies a great sea known as the Bounty. The abundance of sea life, combined with its central location to the three great continents, has historically seen civilizations on the islands of the Bounty thrive, even during the calamitous Umbral eras. The most prominent of those civilizations is that of Radzat-Han, located on Thavnair, the Bounty's largest landmass. An ancient city-state with a history stretching back thousands of years, Radzat-Han is best known as the birthplace of modern alchemy. Home to many peoples, the term Thavnairian means a person hails from the Near Eastern island of Thavnair in a general sense, whereas Hanish implies they hail specifically from Thavnair's capital, Radzat-Han. Despite having a limited outward military presence, the city-state has succeeded in forging a non-interference treaty with the Garlean Empire, ensuring their independence while mightier nations fall about them. As such, Radzat-Han remains an active hub for trade between Eorzea and the Garlean Empire. We know very little about the actual founding of Thavnair, but what we do know is an excerpt from the Kaiser Knuckle Zodiac weapon description, which ties into the legend of the 12 Zodiac Braves. When cataclysm loomed over the Near East, the hero Mirza arose to defend the people from fell fiends. Once he had torn the monsters apart, he raised a mighty empire, and fashioned a pair of weapons such as these from his foes' claws. The 12 Atma gathered in pursuit of these legendary weapons are said to be crystalline objects from Thavnairian legend, and draw inspiration from the Western zodiac, which was heavily influenced by Hellenistic astrology in ancient Greece. Given old Charlene's Greek inspiration and the proximity of the two nations, it's probable that the cultures encountered one another throughout the ages, mingling their mythologies. Whatever Near Eastern empire the Zodiac Brave Mirza founded doesn't appear to have been the nation of Radzat-Han. We now know that Thavnair's indigenous people, the Arkasodara, established the city of Radzat-Han together with Aura and Hyur migrants. Thavnair itself is heavily inspired by cultures from our world, including that of India and the Middle East, though having now set foot in the region, I'd say India is a much stronger influence overall. There's a great deal of nuance behind the religious and cultural references in Thavnair, and I'm not versed enough on the subject to be any kind of authority. All I can do is humbly try my best to provide my understanding of these topics. I would encourage our tourgoers to investigate the supplemental reference links in the video's description for more information. With Thavnair's past being a mystery to us, let's see if the present holds any answers. Those arriving on the Isle of Thavnair are greeted by the heady wind that blows inland over the Bounty's azure waves. It's apt, then, that the main port town lies in a region known as Saltwind's Welcome. In the outer keys, small sandy islands on the surface of a coral reef, a variety of docks are built over the water. Boats from many different shores make port for trade and travel, including several that appear to be of Limson make. The merchant vessels of Radzat-Han were plagued by Limson piracy for many years, and no figure was more legendary in these waters than that of Mistbeard, who is believed dead until the year 1251, when a vast wealth of treasures were plundered from a Hanish merchant's ship. Time and again, the Pirate King has been reported dead, only to resurface, leading many to believe the man immortal. None on these shores know that he currently leads a new life as Merlvib Bluhisvin's Grand Storm Marshal, serving as her right-hand man. When sailors depart their ships, they make their way first through the town of Yedlihmad. Yedlihmad's people toil daily beneath the heat of the sun, taking what moments they can to enjoy the shade until the coming of dusk brings cooler temperatures. Beneath the starry sky, a small central market offers fish and other goods for purchase to those arriving from the docks. Silk and elixirs are high-demand imports from Thavnair, but so too are culinary delicacies. Many traditional foods and beverages have made their way from Thavnair back to mainland Eorzea, including mint lassi and rolanberry lassi, two refreshingly tangy drinks made from cultured milk. Culinarians are also familiar with this region's reputation for complex spices and punishingly hot dishes. Additionally, several notable varieties of produce are exported to Eorzea that originate in the Near East, such as wild and Thavnairian onions, wizard eggplants, sun and han lemons, apricots, rami grass, and Gischal greens. Throughout Yedlihmad and Thavnair as a whole, you will undoubtedly run into the native peoples of the island, an elephantine race known as the Akyaali. In our world, Hindu legends describe the being Airavata as a white elephant who carries the deity Indra. This creature is also called Abramatanga, meaning elephant of the clouds, and Akyaali, meaning brother of the sun. Like other Matanga people, the Akyaali resemble the great Marid in both appearance and brawn, Marid being Eorzea's term for elephants. Their bulky frames belie their deftness of hand, and their thirst for knowledge has led many to pursue mastery of the alchemic arts. Earth's elephants are deeply symbolic in Hindu beliefs, as they are the living incarnation of one of their most venerated gods, Lord Ganesh. Ganesh is an elephant-headed god of wisdom, success, and good luck. He's also a giver of different types of favors, and is famous for being the remover of all obstacles. Within Hinduism, using elephant symbolism in and around your house is said to invite good luck and fortune, whilst keeping any negativity out. Many of the decorative elements adorning the architecture and statues of Thavnair heavily feature the Marid in their motifs. Given the positioning of elephantine imagery over major archways and doorways throughout Yedlihmad, it may be that Thavnairian culture holds a similar belief. In close proximity to the town of Yedlihmad are several natural landmarks. Usha Devig is an unremarkable key with a lone boulder rising up from it in the eastern waters of Yedlihmad. It's possible the name is a hybrid of Usha, meaning dawn, and Devi, which is the Sanskrit word for goddess. Theoretically, this would fit, since the stately stone on this eastern-facing island could be the first face to greet the sun as it rises each day. But it's more likely that the word may simply be a whimsical creation by the game's writers. The nearby key Tepkeyik is just down the shore from Yedlihmad, and bears a similarly enigmatic title. Whatever its origins, two invasive species of giant snail are presently causing problems for the locals there. Even further to the east of Yedlihmad, a series of cliffs and hills rise up as a protective wall. In the book series A Song of Ice and Fire, the Night's Watch are a faction sworn to protect the mainland's 7 kingdoms from threats beyond their border. This natural wall of stone may do the same to Yedlihmad, protecting it from naval assaults and inclement weather. This is far from the first reference to George R. R. Martin's book series that can be found in the game, and I doubt it will be our last. In the opposite direction stretches the vibrant, rolling expanse of the Perfumed Rise. The nobles of Radzatan are obsessive about their odor. I suppose it comes from living in a land that is subject to the incessant beating of the sun's harsh rays. The sweltering days and muggy nights leave nearly everyone on the island drenched in a perpetual patina of malodorous wetness. To cope, they spend absurd amounts of coin on all manner of fragrances and perfumes, and as luck would have it, one of the most prized is scented with none other than Althic lavender. Aldskyfe, Final Fantasy XIV. Throughout the short grass covering the Perfumed Rise, a speckling of wildflowers are hidden to those flying overhead. The area just outside Yedlihmad's gates may be named for their sweet fragrance, or it could be that the lavender so prized in perfumes is reminiscent of the color of the Giantsgall deposits breaking through the topsoil. In our world, ancient perfumes frequently made use of an aromatic resin extracted from trees called frankincense. These took on a stone-like appearance and could vary in color from pale milky white to faintly purple, though they tended to lean towards amber in coloration. Wherever this area got its name, this stretch of land is undoubtedly pleasing to the senses, sight most of all. As you fly over the Perfumed Rise, you'll notice tortoises wandering the rolling hills. These lumbering creatures can also be seen in Eorzea, but are not native to the region. The first adamantoise to arrive in the realm was believed to have been mixed in with a shipment of dodo eggs from the Near East, and hailed originally from Thavnair. Just down the coast of the Perfumed Rise is the small settlement of Akyaali. This cheerful Akyaali fishing village is nestled beside a large rocky hill. The narrow poles of bamboo rising up from the water are sheltered from the overhead sun by parasols. Gazing out at them, a visual from our real world is called to mind, that of Sri Lanka's stilt fishing. Stilt fishing is one of the most interesting traditional fishing methods of Sri Lanka, and though it looks ancient, records indicate that it actually came into being just after World War II. Though stilt fishermen make the activity seem easy and comfortable, stilt fishing requires skill and balance. A vertical pole with an attached crossbar is embedded into the seafloor. This crossbar allows the fishermen to be seated a couple of meters above the water, causing minimal shadows on the surface and hence little to no disturbance amongst the sea life. The stilt fishermen then use a rod from this precarious position to bring in a good catch of spotted herring and small mackerel. They collect the catch in a bag tied to the pole or to their waist. How exactly the Arkasudara pull off stilt fishing with their relative size, I'm not sure, but one can only hope that their Huron and Aura companions aid in their efforts, while they use the fishing boats currently drawn up to shore. In addition to fish that are meant to be eaten, decorative fish are a desired commodity in Eorzea, where they've become wildly popular for aquariums. The Thavnairian leaf fish was long one of the most sought-after species, and is a freshwater fish originally native to this very island. Once almost impossible to acquire on mainland Eorzea, the Near Eastern species' recent introduction to the Thaliak River has seen its asking price drop from wholly ludicrous to somewhat absurd. Moving further down the shoreline, it's impossible to miss the colorful buildings that make up the Great Work. The term Great Work is used in Hermeticism and occult traditions regarding the practice of alchemy. The ultimate goal of alchemy is a process known as the Great Work, or magnum opus in Latin. This involves spiritual transformation, the shedding of impurities, the joining of opposites, and the refinement of materials. Exactly what the end result of this profound transformation was varies between sources, but the alchemical substance it could theoretically create was commonly referred to as the Philosopher's Stone. Through the Great Work, alchemists strove to break down, purify, and combine the elements of the world in a three-part process in an attempt to achieve enlightenment through the stone's creation. The first step, nigredo, otherwise known as blackening or charring, involved decomposition and reduction. This process broke complex things back down to their most basic components. The second step, albedo, or whitening, was a purification process of the basic components, which left the alchemists with only the purest essences with which to work. These first two steps are often repeated until the essences have been reduced to two opposite elements, often metaphorically described as the Red King and the White Queen. The Red King is typically sulfur, the active, volatile, and fiery principle of alchemy, while the White Queen is mercury, the material, passive, and fixed principle. Lastly, the rubedo, or reddening stage, is when the real transformation occurs. The revelations previously uncovered are brought to fruition, and a true union of opposites occurs, manifesting in a united being or essence that's ultimately aware of and in harmony with all aspects of itself. Upon this culmination, the Great Work will finally be achieved. The three buildings that make up the Thavnairian Great Work may each house a step of this process. Venturing into the one that is accessible from the Aetherite, we're able to watch the process of nigredo at work. The Arcasodaran alchemists in the Great Work strive to bring together elements of the light and dark, fighting to find union and harmony that will change their understanding of the universe. Looming ominously over the alchemist's facility is the Tower of Zot. The Tower of Zot spells impending doom for Thavnair. This is the level 81 dungeon coming in Endwalker, but if you want more lore on this Final Fantasy IV inspired content, watch our dungeon tour video here on YouTube. Down on the beach, not far from the base of the tower, the Hamsa Hatchery prepares to protect its avian charges from whatever may emerge. The Hamsa is an aquatic migratory bird referred to in ancient Sanskrit texts, which various scholars have interpreted as being based on the swan, goose, or even the flamingo. The bird's image is used in Indian and Southeast Asian culture as a spiritual symbol and a decorative element. In many stories, the bird is attributed with the mythical ability to extract milk from a mixture of milk and water, and is also able to distinguish good from evil. In Hindu iconography, a Hamsa is the sacred mount of several deities and serves as a symbol of wisdom. The encampment on the shores of the Hamsa Hatchery sports several nesting sites and a small armed force training on dummies. If these are the Hamsa's nesting grounds, it stands to reason that the figures are protectors of this revered bird. At the base of the cliff that provides a ramp up to the Tower of Zot is a mining operation unique to Thavnair. Giantsgall is a variety of stone found only on Thavnair, possessing exceptional hardness. Its name is derived from a legend that tells of a far eastern hero who voyaged to the selfsame island and there vanquished a fearsome giant. A nearby stone drank up the slain giant's blood and gall, thus receiving its strength. In recent years, the Eorzean Bruguiere Consortium has begun sourcing arms from Radzat as free rewards for participating in skirmish exercises. These arms are forged of a peculiar stone known as Giantsgall, mined here from its source. Stretching the length of the basin and arcing over the bridge that leads to Radzat is a highly intricate Torana. A Torana is a freestanding ornamental or arched gateway for ceremonial purposes seen in Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain architecture. The structure has an eye-shaped gap in the center that allows the distant eye of the Ahriman statue positioned above Radzat gates to peer through and scrutinize all who would approach the city. In the realm of Thavnair, the Ahriman may share symbolic meaning with our realm's concept of the evil eye, a superstitious belief in a curse cast by a malevolent glare. This superstition dates back to Greek classical antiquity, though many cultures maintain that using the eye in charms or motifs creates a kind of supernatural force that reflects an ill-intentioned gaze back upon those who would wish them harm. The guardian of this gate never rests, leading to the wakeful description in its name. Unblinkingly, it bids all those who mean harm to Radzat to turn their evil gaze away. Radzat name may also have been influenced by our own star, as there's a state in North India called Rajasthan, which literally means land of kings. The term shroud usually refers to an item, such as a cloth, that covers or protects some other object. It's most often used, though, in reference to burial sheets. The Samgha, or Samgha, is a Sanskrit word found in many Indian languages meaning assembly or community. In Buddhism, the Samgha refers to the monastic community of monks and nuns. Such monasteries were originally established by Gautama Buddha to provide a means for those who wish to practice full-time in a direct and highly disciplined way. With the presence of the temple and other spiritual sites in the Shroud, it seems likely that the Shroud is a reference to the dense covering of foliage protecting the structures throughout the basin. However, both this word and the names of several sites also denote a sense of regret, death, or possible conflict, such as Pavana's Remorse and Palaka's stand. This may explain why no monks or nuns are seen at the religious sites in the valley. Whatever happened in the past, now only the chattering Hanuman monkeys are left in attendance of the ruins. At first glance, Pavana's Remorse would seem to be a reference to the Hindu deity Vayu, who is also known as Pavana, meaning the purifier. However, the Yoga Vashishta, a philosophical Hindu text, has a tale that seems more appropriate to this empty glade. Punya and Pavana were brothers born to a sage and his wife. When their parents passed away, Pavana ran into the forest overwhelmed by grief. There he wailed until his brother came upon him, telling him not to mourn, and saying, "All that is presented to us in this elusive world is only a delusion. In a true sense, there is no loss of anybody or anything in the world. They only appear to exist and disappear, like the mirage of water in the dry desert. All is only a dream that lasts a few days." I remember the various customs and pursuits of different peoples on Earth that I had to observe and follow in my repeated reincarnations among them. In those different lives, I had many fathers and mothers, and many more brothers and sisters, and also friends and relatives numbering hundreds and thousands. For whom shall I lament, and which shall I forget among this number? Shall I wail only for those I lose in this life? The world is a stage that presents many acts and scenes. See the image of the serene spirit of God in your innermost soul. Learn to live like the great sages, with the sight of your spiritual light. And so the two found enlightenment, living amidst the forest until they both attained nirvana. In the outpost known as Palaka's Stand, another tale of brothers can be uncovered. King Palaka was a king from the Pradyota dynasty in India. He's best described in the play Mrchakatika, attributed to the ancient playwright Shudraka. He was considered to be a tyrant, and in the play is overthrown by his nobler brother, though in other sources it's claimed he was overthrown by his own people. Was the Palaka of Thavnair a tyrant that made a final stand in this location before being overthrown? Could this figure have caused these ruins to sink into history? Do these two stories of brothers tie into a larger historical narrative we aren't yet privy to? It's possible these locations are unrelated to either of these tales, but it's fun to speculate. Within the older stone ruins, new buildings have cropped up, painted in eye-catching colors and housing simple beds and supplies. Winding beyond the Palaka's Stand aetheryte is a narrow waterway called Ksrioda. Ksrioda is the name of a river mentioned in a list of rivers, flowing from the 5 great mountains according to the Purana. Those who drink the waters of these rivers live for 10,000 years. In Hindu cosmology, it's also mentioned as one of the names for the Ocean of Milk, a mythical ocean churned by the gods that released Amrita, the nectar of immortal life. The river snakes its way through the dense foliage where, amidst the trees, the temple of Agama can be found. Largely buried underground, a lone peak of the Agama temple's Shikara, or tallest tower, is all that remains visible of the ancient structure. The temple's name is likely drawn from the Agamas, a collection of tantric literature and scriptures foundational to several Hindu schools of spirituality. The term literally means traditions that are passed on, or that which has come down. In the architectural conventions of our world, ancient Sanskrit texts suggest the appropriate site for a temple is near water and gardens, where lotus and flowers bloom, where swans and other birds are heard, where animals rest without fear of injury or harm. In line with these words, the Agama temple sits near a series of pools dotting the Shroud of Samgha, as well as the greater body of water coursing beneath the Wakeful Torana. If this temple is built in the same way as Hindu temples, deep within the buried structure is likely a small, perfectly square, windowless, enclosed space that represents the universal essence, also called Purusa. How convenient, then, that across the shroud from the sunken temple is an unassuming platform bearing that very same name. Purusa is a complex concept whose meaning has evolved throughout history. In early Vedas, Hindu scriptures, Purusa was a cosmic being who was sacrificed to create all life. In the Upanishads, later philosophical religious texts, the Purusa refers to a more abstract concept. It is the essence of the super soul, an energy which is eternal and indestructible, and an all-pervasive consciousness that spans the universe. This isn't the same as Western religion's concept of the soul. Rather, it's a sense of a supreme creative and cognizing universal force, a light that shines sentience on all things, a soul greater than all individual souls that ties us together.
Hear, feel, think.
Purusa as a cosmic principle is often described as a masculine force that is non-active, unchanging, eternal, and pure. Whereas Purusa is considered to be the greater awareness that exists in the universe, Atma or Atman is the name of the portion of that light which resides in the individual. This connects back to the Zodiac Weapon questline and the 12 Atma of Thavnairian legend. They are the pure fragments of enemy souls coalesced into crystalline form. Purusa also manifests in the individual as Adhyajna, or the seat of sacrifice, which is described as when the indwelling part of the supersoul that resides within all beings inspires a living entity to perform sacrifice and awards the results of their prescribed duty. Essentially, when the greater universal consciousness that lives within us spurs us to selfless acts of sacrifice. In contrast to Purusa's higher existence, there's another force known as Prakriti, also sometimes referred to as the material world itself. Prakriti is the feminine aspect of existence, the driving force that brings about evolution and change in the empirical universe. In the Samgha school of thought, it doesn't only refer to matter or nature, but includes all the cognitive, moral, psychological, emotional, sensorial, and physical aspects of our reality. Purusa, consciousness, uniting with Prakriti, matter, is said to be what gives rise to life itself. If you've watched my old Charlie and City Tour video, there's some interesting similarities between Kant's theory of transcendental idealism and the concepts of Purusa and Prakriti. Both attempt to explain the intangible versus tangible forces at play in how we perceive our own existence. While masculine and feminine energies are represented a myriad of ways across myths and religions worldwide, the concepts of Purusa versus Prakriti and the alchemical Red King versus White Queen also have intriguing symbolic parallels. Both echo universal themes that resonate with Heidelin's static light and Zodiark's active darkness. The elephantine figure presiding over the font of Maya possesses several additional limbs. In Hinduism, deities are often depicted with multiple arms, which become visible when they are battling with cosmic forces. In the case of this monument, perhaps the entity is battling with the concept of Maya itself. Maya translates to illusion or magic and has multiple meanings in Hinduism. Generally, it's believed that Maya is a veil that stops people from seeing the truth of the universe. This concept states that if our souls are eternal and last beyond the existence of our physical forms, then Maya is the illusion that makes us believe our physical reality is the extent of our existence. In other words, Maya is the veil that must be lifted back to find the true, permanent state of being we all come from and are connected to. I've seen this metaphor used to explain Maya. If one pursues the mirage of an oasis in the desert, one will not find water but will be misled. Similarly, this world provides no real happiness, since it exists only as an elusive dream. In this metaphor, the mirage is Maya. However, the mirage indicates that there are real oases out there with real water, if we can look beyond the illusion to find them. This monument may be a reminder to look for the true wellspring of water, the source of all things that flows through the universe. The final stop of our tour leads us to follow in the dancer Kadjaya's footsteps. With a view to cause satisfaction to the world, you indulge in your dance, thereby creating happiness at a time when it withers, being stricken or afflicted by the scorching sun. So I approach you, who are the descendant of that race of Indra, who are the only solace to those opposed by grief, in the same manner as the sun is approached as a friend of the lotus. These lines are spoken to a messenger peacock by a forlorn lover who is separated from his spouse, in the poetic work Mayura Sandesa, the peacock's message. The peacock's dance brings him joy at a time when all else seems hopeless. Also referred to as the Black Pearl, Kadjaya was a princess of the imperial family of At Organ, an empire from 14's predecessor, Final Fantasy XI. This empire was similarly located in Near East of XI's world, and was governed by the Divine Empress, a ruler who wielded absolute religious and secular authority. At the time of XI, the reigning empress was Empress Nashmira. Kadjaya was fourth in line to her mother's throne. The princess may have been given a second life in 14, much like Captain Raubon, who in 11 was the leader of At Organ's force of blue mages. Between the statues of dancers, or perhaps of Kadjaya herself, a prominent peacock takes center stage. Throughout Thavnair, imagery evoking the peacock's feathers can be found in everything from textiles to architecture to this very pavilion. India's national bird is the peacock, also called Mayura. The peacock is said to bring harmony and joy to those who see it. It's majestic and proud, and revels in dramatic expression, seen most when the male bird dances for the sake of the female during courting, reminding onlookers of the celebration of life. In India, it's said that the peacock's feathers have 1,000 eyes. In our current lore of Heidelin, there's one other figure that references having 1,000 eyes in her name, the prophetess Messiah Thousand Eyes. Messiah's divine chronicles prophesied the great calamities and became the focus of Archon Louis-Suar's scholarship. With Messiah's origins unknown, could it be that she herself hailed from Thavnair and earned her title not only due to her gift of foresight, but also because of a possible affiliation with the peacock? One of the other most common symbolic ties is between the peacock and rain. The peacock is said to be able to foretell rain by dancing before it pours. And if a peacock cries more than usual, it's said to predict a significant death on the horizon. Gazing out at Thavnair's landscape, I can only wonder, what impending storm is the peacock's dance foreshadowing in these lush lands? Thus concludes our tour of Thavnair. Again, I'm Rook, and it was my pleasure to be your lore-obsessed tour guide today. When you're able to visit in person, this vibrant landscape will be sure to capture your imagination and send it soaring. Until then, the inhabitants of Thavnair will continue their daily lives, awaiting the arrival of adventurers from far and wide to forestall the coming storm. Be sure to tip your tour guide by liking or subscribing, and thank you for listening! If you enjoyed the content, check out the rest of my Endwalker Media Tour playlist, which also includes coverage of new features, jobs, glamour, and lore tours of Old Sharlayan and Garlemald. Thank you as well to Square Enix for this opportunity. All footage shown in this video is still in development and subject to change. Visit Thavnair in person when Endwalker releases, coming November 23rd, 2021, with early access starting November 19th.